of JT Talks Jobs. This is the show that teaches you everything they should have taught you in school but didn't when it comes to job search and career growth. My name is JT O'Donnell. I'm the founder of Work It Daily. And today we are going to be talking about where the jobs are during this incredible time of crisis. But before we do, I always like to remind you, please make sure that you're following our social media hashtag JT Talks Jobs. We're on all the major platforms, including LinkedIn. And the reason you should do that is that way you can back and you can find all of our content. We're dropping stuff each and every day, a lot of timely stuff around right now. So it's a great opportunity for you to stay in the know and stay ahead of the game with all the changes that are going on. Okay. So be sure to check us out there and follow us and like us. We would really appreciate it, of course. But enough on that. Let's come right on over and start talking about this subject because this is a really important topic. I'll be honest, not an easy topic. When we decided to discuss this, my first reaction is, what do I tell people? Because most people really believe there are no jobs right now. But I want to paint a more realistic picture for you and also give you some ideas about where you can go and things you can do right now to help with that. So these four options, before I give you these four options, I want to just talk about some reality checks, right? Layoffs stop when sales start to pick up. So people, the first thing I'm getting asked a lot right now is, JT, when will the layoffs stop? You know, we've had 1 week where there were 3.3 million layoffs and new unemployment claims. This past week, another 6.6 million. So 10 million people filed for unemployment in the last 2 weeks. I get it. The immediate assumption then is there are no jobs because you just assume if everyone's unemployed, there's no jobs, but it doesn't work that way, folks. Okay. Layoffs will continue as companies are trying to figure out, are they making enough money? And they'll have to lay off in order to keep the businesses alive. So they're looking very closely at their sales numbers every single week, every single month in order to make those decisions. Some companies are laying off, others are furloughing, whatever they're doing to cut those costs, that will stop when sales start to come back. So obviously, when you have a crisis like this, it's when the crisis slows up that we'll start to see sales pick up again. Everybody gets back to business. Companies can then figure out, okay, what does my cash flow look like? It looks like we're steady again. We can start to hire some people back, but it won't be everyone. And so one of the most important things you should be thinking about right now, if you've been laid off or furloughed, or if you fear that you might be, is a strategy around what can you do in that time where there aren't going to be as many job opportunities. Should you be looking for work? Absolutely. Are there companies hiring? Yes, there are. And we don't have to put a list together for you because there are so many news outlets that are trying to focus you in on that. But you can still look for work. It's just that the number of opportunities won't be as large. So you also want to be thinking about some other options as well. Okay. All right. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about just to address. And then the same thing I wanted to talk to everybody about is this concept of a payroll stimulus package. So a lot of companies are in what we call the wait and see mode. There are all these packages coming out, but they're very complex. They're not easy to apply for, and they're not going to be immediate. So companies are trying to figure out whether or not these packages are going to work for them. And that is going to take some time. It could take as little as a couple of weeks. It could take a couple of months. So we just can't assume that all this amazing stimulus money is going to solve all of our problems. And again, we'll probably still continue to see people freeze hiring, do layoffs, do furloughs until they know what they're going to get and how they can apply it. So just understand that's what's going on in our environment right now. It is what it is. You know how I feel about this. We need to stay neutral. The facts are the facts. This is where we're at. Let's work with what we've got. And that's what we're going to do today because you know me, I'm all about, hey, let's find a way. So let's get right into our options. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for this to settle, while we're waiting for companies to get back into full hiring mode, here are 4 things that you could consider that would help you create value, potentially earn an income, and also kind of close the gap in this time between where you are now and where you want to be in your career. So let's talk option 1, and it's called getting a gap job. So a gap job is going to be one of these hourly jobs that have been surging as a result. I mean, again, people assume that in a time like this, everything's losing. There are some companies that are absolutely thriving, right? You have companies like Amazon, you have food delivery services and grocery stores and the healthcare industry. There's a lot of surge for freelance type work as well. So there are gap positions out there, and they're called a gap position because it's just understood that this isn't your normal career profession. This isn't something you're planning on sticking with forever, but it would be an income and it would keep you busy. And this is really important for those people that are struggling being at home. There are some people that are adapting brilliantly to being at home or working from home. There are other people that just in their DNA, they were meant to be moving. They can't sit still. They're used to interacting with people. They're used to being on the go. And this is really devastating for them. So individuals like that need a routine, need to be out, need to be doing something. A gap job is perfect for that individual because it'll give them some of those really important things that are missing in their life right now while they're, in the midst of this crisis. So gap job, definitely an option. I just want to tell you from a recruiter standpoint, there's no shame in taking a gap job. Let me make this perfectly clear. In really good economic times, if you're unemployed and you take a gap job, you're right. People might question, well, why are you taking that job? You have all these skill sets. What's wrong with you? Okay. So a lot of people try to avoid gap jobs because they say it'll look funny. It'll look like a disruption in my work history as a professional. Not right now. No recruiter, no hiring manager, nobody in HR is ever going to question somebody who took a gap job right now during these times. So if ever there was a time you thought, gee, I've always wondered what it'd be like if I did that type of work, now's the time. Do it. Absolutely. Because no one is going to criticize you for it. If anything, they're going to be really impressed that you stepped up to the plate and you engaged. So let's look at option number 2, and this is offering pro bono services. And this is something I've been coaching a lot of Work It Daily members on how to do this. If you ever thought about freelancing or contract work before, you've ever wondered what it's like, could you make it as a freelancer or as a contractor? Now is absolutely the time for you to consider that. And what you want to do is offer your services for free. So you can put together something and post it on LinkedIn, for example, that explains your skill set, explains the kind of work that you do, and say, I am willing to do one project for your company for free. Contact me to learn more. Now, notice I said one project, because what you don't want to do is continuous pro bono work for the same company who's getting all this value for free. But if you put yourself out there and offer up, hey, I'll write one article for you for free. I'll put together one PowerPoint presentation for free. I'll do this one thing for free. What happens is they're getting much needed break right now. You're getting work experience. You're building a relationship with them. And after that, if they really like you, what are they going to do? Well, it's much easier to want to pull the trigger and hire you for more project work. So this is truly a wonderful time. If you're not working right now anyways, why not offer up one pro bono opportunity to a bunch of different companies? If you did this to 10 different companies, that would be 10 projects that you could put on here right now. You would show all of the depth. You would literally build your portfolio as a freelancer right now. And I guarantee you somewhere in there, you'd build a relationship with one or two of them who'll say, okay, we'll pay you next time. We'll hire you again. Because what it is you're breadcrumbing them, so to speak. You're getting them interested. You're getting them to know you and your work style. And now their fear of hiring you and the fear of the return on the investment dramatically drops. So perfect time right now, folks. Get out there and pro bono it up. Just remember, limit it, one per customer. Okay. All right. Option number 3, upskill for a side hustle. You are going to see an incredible amount of organizations offering training for free right now. If you've ever thought about getting into a different type of career or a different area of expertise, maybe a different industry, go find one of the hundreds, if not thousands, of free courses out there right now that companies are giving away. And I'll give you an example. Here at Work It Daily, we're actually in growth mode. We're one of the industries that are growing, right? People need career coaching help. So we are going to be allowing recruiters who are getting laid off in droves to go through our free career coaching training, because recruiters, we only hire people who come from a recruiting and an HR and training background who truly understand and can help you in your career. That's how we work. So it only makes sense that we would open it up and say, if these recruiters are home right now and they don't have jobs, and there's a really good chance they won't get their jobs back, because a lot of companies won't be hiring again for a very long time. So the sheer number of recruiters that companies will need will drop. Why wouldn't we say, would you like to try a new skill? Have you ever thought about career coaching? Let's put you through the training and see what you think. So we're looking at that. I've seen companies, a ton of companies in the social media space are offering their social media certifications for free, where they're teaching them all of their technologies right now. So if you've ever wanted to become a social media manager, I'm seeing courses on that as well. It's just incredible how many people are putting out free learnings, free trainings that you can take, and there's no barrier to entry. You don't have to have come from the industry. You don't have to have a certain degree. You don't have to have worked at a certain place, and you don't have to pay. So get out there, do your research. If there was ever a side hustle that you wanted to start to build up and maybe even make your full-time career sometime, taking some free training in that space right now is the way to do it. Okay, and here's option number 4, identifying an industry pivot. So I just did an exercise on this morning with all the Work It Daily members. We were doing a live session, and I said, you need to think about the opportunities that are coming out of the constraints right now. So yes, maybe your industry is dying as a result of this. Maybe your type of work is dying as a result of this. But you have to think 1 to 2 steps ahead. What companies are going to start to grow as a result of this? What industries are going to start to grow as a result of this? Which ones interest you? Because now would be the time to start to strategize how you can revamp your resume and your LinkedIn profile, how you can start to network and meet people in that industry or in that new field so that you can prepare yourself to transfer your skills and make a pivot. Some of these industries that are going to blow up, when this is over, all the talent they need, in terms of having the exact education and the exact experience is not going to be there. It literally will not be there. And they'll be so busy trying to hire that they'll have to, I don't want to say drop their standards, but they'll open up what they're willing to accept. Now, if you've done your homework and you can connect the dots and say to them, here's why I know I want to be in your industry now. Here's why I know I want to be in this skill set. Here are my transferable skills that I know absolutely speak to this. Here are the people that I've met and spoken to that have validated for me that this is going to be the right career move for me. You're going to stand out in a sea of other candidates who are just blindly applying and hoping they get picked, when in reality, they haven't shown or done anything to prove that they really would be a good candidate for the job, in spite of the fact they don't have the experience or the skill set. So this is the time. Connect the dots for employers. Get your package together, right? You're a business of one. You've got to put your brand together to explain to them why you want to break into this new industry. And there's going to be a lot of them, folks. I will tell you, go back through history. Every time there's a recession, amazing businesses pop out of this. In fact, I saw another article this morning that talked about how many tech companies on the end of something like this absolutely explode. The ones that were weak and really didn't have a strong business model, they die. So a lot of tech startups won't survive right now. But guess what? There are some that are going to come out on the end of this, and they're going to be huge. They're going to be enormous, and there's going to be incredible opportunity. That's my point. Look for the opportunity. If you're going to look for the negativity, if you're going to look for the failure, if you're only going to stare at the unemployment numbers, then that's what's going to happen. You're going to limit yourself and you're not going to grow. But if you can sit back and go, wait a minute, this will come to an end, because it will. And there will be dramatic shifts, because there will be. And there will be some pretty cool opportunities. And if I start thinking about it now, think about what I can say and do when the time comes, right? So it really is a good time to be thinking about this. All right, there you have it. 4 options right now. Yes, there are jobs out there. You need to look for them, but these were 4 ways you really could think about job search right now in a different way that would serve you and your career. Okay. With that in mind, I always have 2 tips for you before we get down to questions today, because I'm sure there's a lot of them. Here are my final 2 tips on this subject. First of all, take time right now to self-assess. The biggest mistake job seekers make is that they don't assess themselves and understand their strengths, their weaknesses, their preferences, their skill sets, what's marketable about them, what's in demand. They just don't do it. They don't study their communication style. They don't study their workplace personas, their learning style, their unique gifts. These are all things that you should be understanding about yourself collectively so that you can make informed decisions. And if there was ever a time to do that, now is the time. We have a ton of free resources at Work It Daily. If you go to workitdaily.com/resources, for example, there's 2 quizzes there you can take. One that teaches you your personality, your communication style in the workplace, and one that teaches you your personas in the workplace, which is how you like to create value, how you like to be perceived as an expert in the workplace. These are super important things, and this is just 2 of them, right? So take the time, do the self-assessment. That being said, not too much time. I'm not talking about procrastination here, folks. I don't think you should be studying yourself for the next 2 months. I think you can do some really focused studying over a couple of days, take some tools, do some reading, get some assessments done. Come inside Work It Daily. We have an entire course called the Professional Strengths Assessment. You can do that whole thing, bang it out, be done, and good to go. But don't waste too much time on the assessment, but definitely get it done. And secondly, tip number 2, please talk through your options with professionals, not family and friends. This one is I just can't stress it enough. Your family and your friends, your significant other, these people, they're in a relationship with you. They are naturally biased. They remember you when you were an infant all the way through till now. So they project onto you and they don't have a clear head about what's best for you, your skills, your needs, and your situation. So talking it through with them is not the best option. You need to find a trusted mentor or an advisor. You need to find an objective third party. Hopefully you have some peers, industry peers that you admire that you could have conversations with. You can obviously hire career coaches. You can come inside Work It Daily and work with all of our career coaching team and other members. There has to be a way for you to have a sounding board when it comes to these options, because you need to get that outside perspective from people. We're too close to it. In situations like this, it's very hard for us to see clearly. We can be very emotional, and so can our family and friends. So please, they are not trained or qualified professionals. They are not in your industry, right? And they while they love you and they definitely have your best interest at heart, it doesn't mean they're going to give you the right advice. So please talk through your options right now with trained, credible people. That is super important so that you make smart decisions. Okay. All right. Well, there's that. While we are bringing some questions up here, which I'm very excited about, I just want to remind you all that we launched a new podcast. It's called JT Talks Jobs, and you can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Stitcher, iTunes. We're so excited. It's only been up for just a couple weeks now, and the response has been amazing. So please make sure that you head on over, check it out. You can subscribe. You can listen to it while you're doing other things. You can multitask. Remember, if you want to win, you've got to work it daily. And listening to information and resources to help you grow your career is the best way to do that. You are not surrounded on a daily basis with people who can coach you. And they say that we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So if you don't have 5 people in your court helping you with your career, then why not at least listen to the podcast and give yourself that daily brain boost that you need so that you can stay on top of mind and really grow your career. Okay. All right. So let's start looking at some questions. So let's see. On YouTube, we've got Lone, and Lone is saying, is this a good time to work on getting a certification? It is. Absolutely. My only advice there is to be very careful about paid certifications, especially really expensive ones. I would hesitate to do any significant investment. Right now, focus on keeping your investments to a minimum. There is a lot of free training out there and a lot of low-cost training and low-cost support. You want to spend your money wisely. Spending your money on getting someone's time and support and energy, that's really valuable. But go look for the open courses first. There are a lot of massive open online courses. They're called MOOCs, where you can get certifications as well. Or even if they're letting you take the training for free, but then if you get all the way to the end, you can pay to get certified. Those are good options too, because you can at least take the training and decide whether or not you want to bother to get certified when it's over. So yes to certification, just be really careful when it comes to the price tag. Daniel says, is the pro bono offer good for anyone who is already employed? I want to build up my skills and resume without looking like I'm moonlighting. Absolutely, Daniel. Just because you've got a full-time job doesn't mean you can't pro bono. This is how I get most people to launch their hobby careers. Because if you don't have any experience, it's very difficult to get people to hire you. And also, we're uncomfortable asking to be paid. So that's why you should do pro bono work in the beginning in order to earn your credibility and earn references. That's what I did back in 2002 when I became a career coach. After I went through my training, I did some pro bono strengths assessments for people and coached them through so they could see the value. And that way I had references to get going. It's no different for anyone else out there. Pro bono is the way to do it. People always say, well, I want to get paid for my time. Well, if you don't have the expertise, that's not a fair thing to ask. The way you get paid is through references and people validating that you're good at what you do. So you're going to have to put some skin in the game and do some pro bono work. Okay, Maria on LinkedIn says, any HR specific gap jobs, looking for recommendations. That's really interesting. So again, I think we're not the only organization that probably is going to start to really focus on ramping up their coaching. I would say in HR to expand and look, what are anybody that is in a certain industry, who are the online players in your industry? Right now, what did I say? Technology is on the rise. Who are the online players? What are the online sites, online services? For example, my sister's a nurse practitioner, and in the midst of her working right now, she's also getting a telemedicine certification and setup so that she can do remote medicine, right? she saw the opportunity. We all can find those opportunities. So go start with the digital and the online world for your industry and your space. And you'll start to see, if you spend enough time researching, you'll start to see places that are going to be offering those opportunities. Laura says, I'm a personal trainer, educator, coach, speaker, exec, etc. Regarding ProFinder, I was thinking of offering services of one session for free, usually offering X dollars an hour. My goal is to help them so they don't need me and can do it on their own, decreasing fees and giving one session free maybe. So here's the thing, you can never go wrong with trying it. You can never go wrong with trying giving away a free session because you can turn it off at any time, folks. You're not cast in stone forever. I would say try it with a couple of people, but then see what happens out of that, right? Are you actually converting business? And then once you are, you can decide, okay, do I want to keep doing this or am I going to turn it off, right? Because I will tell you in my experience, in the beginning, anytime you want to, freelance folks, it really does pay to do pro bono work to earn up credibility. Then over time, you get to the point where you either need to raise your rates or stop giving it away for free. That way, because then you get in demand. And then eventually you're not going to offer free sessions because at that point you have such a reputation and people know so well that you're literally going to say, look, you either based on my reputation know that I'm worth it and are going to invest, or I'm going to work with somebody who does, right? It's supply and demand, law of supply and demand. Eventually you will get yourself there, but that doesn't happen until you do more work and you get your reputation up to a certain level. So I always say try free because you can always turn it off. Let's see. Jason says, I was just furloughed by a major retailer. Should I be looking for something new or take my chances and hope they open back up soon? You should be looking for something new, Jason. Absolutely. The furloughing situation is very much up in the air. We don't know how long people will be furloughed. We don't know when this is all going to stop, but I will tell you it's not done yet. So you're better off looking for work right now. A gap job would be great for you. Or like I said, if there's pro bono work you could do to start your side hustle or build out a freelance, take a certification to explore another area that you always wanted to get into. These are all very practical things you could be doing right now. But I would definitely pursue, just because when they say furloughed, it doesn't mean everyone that was furloughed is coming back. And most companies will not be able to afford to bring everybody back. I think people really need to know that. These stimulus packages that are being developed, they're going to help bridge a gap to a degree, but it's not going to take away the fact that these companies, they had these plans that are now, destroyed, and they're going to have to start over again. So I just have to be really realistic with everyone here. I would be doing you a disservice if I was to say you'll be fine, because there's just no guarantee of that. And do you really want to wait? Do you really want to wait and then find out you're not getting your job back and then realize you missed all this valuable opportunity? No, absolutely not. You are a business of one. If anybody is going to learn that right now, it is the people here who are understanding, I am a business of one. I am responsible for myself. I have got to protect myself and my income. I have to find a new income and replace it when my number one customer can't pay me anymore, right? When my number one customer, my employer, can't support me. We are all businesses of one, folks. This has never been more true. So you know what? I want you to think about your business of one. I want you to take care of it. And I want you to go find other income opportunities for it for protection. Let's see. Recommendations for seniors in this market. Yes. In fact, we were just talking today that we're probably going to do a whole session on this. Here's the reality. When we go back, brutally honest, you have to think about a bell curve. So you've got brand new recent grads with zero experience. And then it goes up and you start to have people with more experience. They reach the peak and then they go over the other side of the curve and they start to go down through to retirement. The two sides of the bell curve are always the most impacted in something like this. So the folks that have no experience, right? So all of our college grads are going to struggle. They're not going to be any entry-level jobs for them. And then the people with too much experience, people that are very senior. These two groups, I've literally, lived through 4 recessions to work through 2 of them. This is my third. These are the 2 that are impacted. Now, am I painting a picture of doom and gloom? No, I'm telling you the reality. Can you stand out and be the exception? You betcha. But you have to have an incredible brand strategy. Again, as a business of one, you have to know exactly who your market is. You have to know what they're looking for. And you have to make sure that you're delivering when you interview with them, when you present to them, that you're delivering to them in a way that they want. And so For seniors, for people who are older, the concern is they're not aware of how they're coming across in interviews. They tend to oversell. And they come across desperate and narcissistic, and they don't mean it. It's just that they are so proud that they have all this experience and they feel like, look at me, I'm so much value, I can do so much for you. But that's not what that hiring manager wants. That's not what that employer wants. They don't want somebody that's throwing out to them how much they know and how accomplished they are. What that comes across is you're going to be really high maintenance in the job. You're going to tell everybody what to do and you're going to expect a lot. And you're probably not even going to work as fast as you think. So you have to be very careful as a senior in this current market. You have to know how to brand yourself and how to present yourself so that what you're saying in the interviews is really landing correctly. So my advice is, if you haven't gotten any training on that, you should be dialing into interview prep right now, because on the backside of this, it's going to be all about the way you interview correctly with these organizations. Let's see. Artsy Cat. Oh, that's such a fun nickname. What are some areas aside from IT that you see coming out strong out of this situation? Yeah. So, well, it's not IT necessarily. It's technology. It's SaaS, software as a service, for example. All of these subscription companies. Think about what we've learned right now. Netflix and Spotify, right? Zoom. How many people are Zooming right now? All of these things that have made it possible for us to survive via technology. These are all companies that are going to matter. Again, it's going to explode. There's another thing they're talking about now, that as soon as this is over and everything gets better, there's going to be something called revenge shopping, where people are going to buy because they haven't been buying right now, right? They're conserving money. So we're going to see surges there, again, in online retail, for example. So we'll see all of that as well. It's all going to change. And I can't predict all of them, but you can look at your current market. You can look at your current industry and say, what will come out of this? How will people still use the services and the products and the things that I do in my current job? But how will they do it differently? Right? How will they do it differently? I keep using our own example at Work It Daily. I built the company after the last recession, knowing that people needed to drop the geographic boundaries and the financial boundaries to getting really good career coaching. But ever in a million years did I dream that being the only company with career coaching on a phone app that's safe, that means you don't have to meet a coach face to face, could become the most important aspect of the platform. Never in a million years. Never. But that's what this does, right? So this is how you have to start to think. Sit down, look at your industry and say, how is it forever changed? How will customers work differently in this industry? And then what will those jobs look like? And again, I said as my tip, do this with someone else. Sit down, get on a call with some of your friends, brainstorm with some of your peers in your industry. Think about where it's going. You can do this. It's not rocket science. You're in your industry. You know your customers. You can figure out where this is going, as long as you have a conversation with people in order to map that out. Okay. Right. Like I said, it's going to bring about incredible opportunity for those that look for it. I cannot stress that enough. Michael says, how does one figure out what other opportunities in different fields they would really like? Yeah, so there's a couple ways that we do that in Work It Daily. The most obvious way, we've talked about it a lot, is for people to create an interview bucket list. And we just say, pick 10 companies. Don't get hung up on their geography, where they're located. Don't get hung up on whether you think you could be hired by them or have the skills. Just ignore all that. Pick 10 companies that, when you think about what they do, the product they have, the service, you get like a warm fuzzy. You have an emotional response that's very positive to their business model. Not that you heard they're a great place to work. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the reason they exist. You love it for some reason, and you love it because you love the customers they serve, or their beliefs or their values. Maybe they're better, they're faster, they're cheaper. You've had some life experience. It supports a hobby that you're into. It supports something you believe in. You have to sit down and pick 10 companies that you feel an emotional connection to. And then ask yourself, where's that emotional connection coming from? And jot that down, right? So we have an exercise. You literally jot that down. And then you go through and say, what do all of these companies, or what do some of these companies have in common? And what you'll find is there's patterns. Maybe all the companies are environmentally friendly. Maybe they're all in the beauty industry. Maybe they're all in the luxury industry. Maybe they're all helping people that are less, underprivileged, that sort of thing. Maybe it's all nonprofit. You will see patterns. And as soon as you see those patterns in industry or type of work, now you know what you should start to explore. So that's one part of it. The other part of it, it's the work of Dr. John Holland. He's one of my favorites. It's called the Career Interests Game. I'll tell you, the University of Missouri has one of the coolest free versions of his program I've ever seen. So if you Google Career Interest Game, University of Missouri, you'll find it. And what you do is it's basically there are 6 areas of interest, and you decide if you had to go to one, which one would you go first, second, and third? And it creates a 3-letter code called your Holland code. You're then able to look at jobs that have those letters, 2 to 3 of those letters. I mean, 3 means it literally speaks to your top 3 interests. This is an amazing way to start to identify new industries that you'd be into. And the reason I love the University of Missouri is that they not only show you those, but you're able to click on the job title that has the 3-letter code that matches you, and it takes you over to the U.S. Department of Labor's explanation of that job, the requirements in terms of education, the pay ranges, et cetera, so that you can do your research. So that's another area that you can check that out as well. But you should absolutely be doing that research right now if you can. Eva says, I'm a software engineer. However, as a sole caretaker to my toddler and no daycare options available, how can I ask a recruiter about remote work? Well, I think there's now more than ever is the best time to ask about remote work, because if a company is looking to hire right now, it's remote. They're not bringing people in. So if you are looking for remote work in your skill set, you want to ramp up your job search right now for companies that are posting, because they're going to have to work remote, right? And so you can even go on the assumptive and say to them, I'm going to assume you're working remote like right now. Is the company also thinking about remote work in the future? Would they be doing remote work long term? But right now it's a given. There's very few companies that are having anybody go into the office at this point in the tech space, especially when it comes to software. So you can make the assumption that it would be remote. Let's see. Anise says, as a finance executive, do you think that submitting a resume that shows a more attractive format like selling or marketing guys will be much more favorable, or will get negative reaction back from recruiters? So first of all, resume. Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start with this when I get that question. I have such strong feelings about resumes. First of all, most people are overselling themselves on resumes right now. And it's a travesty, because there are some resume writers out there who are charging hundreds and thousands of dollars, and they make your resume look really slick and fancy. And it's lots of pages. It's in a fancy font. It's got all this stuff that makes you sound so amazing. And you feel so good as you hand over your money. And then you go and nobody calls you. And that is because that is not what recruiters are looking for. Recruiters are not looking for something slick. Recruiters are going through thousands of resumes right now. They are looking for something clean, white space, and dialed in on its messaging. Less is more on a resume right now, because that's how they'll be able to absorb what your expertise is. When you overwhelm them with text like these sales and marketing guys, it's too much. It doesn't work. And again, it makes you look desperate. Also, when you put everything you've ever done on a resume, folks, that impression is then, well, if it's not here, the person hasn't done it. So you don't want to do that. You want to really scale back your resume. The trend right now is much simpler, clean line, white space, only the facts. And especially at an executive level. And let me tell you why. If you're an executive right now, it's all about emotional intelligence, right? Not being tone deaf to what's going on right now, and intellectual humility. Intellectual superiority is really out right now. So if you have a self-important resume, it's not going to work. You got to play it down. And when I work with all the executive clients inside Work It Daily, I push back really hard on that. We really get them to a place. And it's funny, in the beginning, they doubt me. And then when it's done, I say, go take the resume you came to me with, and let's look at the resume you and I built together. And now tell me which message is clear. Now tell me which one shows that it's low key confidence because you know your stuff. Now tell me which one looks like you aren't bragging. And there's no comparison. So you absolutely need to be really careful with your resume right now. Let's see. Siddharth asks, what will hospitality sector boom post lockdowns? Where is a good place to start sending my resume? You know what? A lot of people aren't going to have the money to go back on vacation. They're not going to have money to eat out. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. So companies that were able to survive in the hospitality sector, the ones that had the strongest cash reserves and were able to survive, will come back. And what they'll do is start to offer, really deep discounts and things just to get people back. But that will be a slow build. And that's one of the reasons why we're so very, very concerned, because there's a lot of restaurants that will just never come back. There's, hotels will come back slowly. but the occupancy rates won't be there, so they won't be able to hire back all that staff. So you just need to know that's probably a good 6 months out. You're looking at the hospitality industry coming back in the fall. So you have to be thinking about other ways to pivot right now, and get your brand on point. Make sure that when they start to hire again, you stand out as the person that's going to bring the best return on investment, that really understands what's happening in the market. You should be networking, that sort of thing, because there just won't be as many jobs there. Let's see. What would you recommend for military members that are currently transitioning during the pandemic and are unsure about the industry they want to work in? Okay, John. So first of all, think of this next job as temporary. Every job is temporary. This one is truly temporary. So we work with a ton of military. And as I always say, thank you for your service. But when they come into the program, they're thinking, okay, well, I had this military career. So now I got to figure out my next career. Let's not go there yet. You deserve the opportunity to kind of shop a little. Also, going into private sector for most people is a complete shock. So you need to just go someplace, and that first place you go, chances are, even if it's the best place in the world to work, you're still going to have trouble with it a little bit. And so you may not stay there longer than a year or two. So let's just dial in and say, okay, what are my transferable skills? What can I market about myself post-military? What am I interested in, right? So at least what companies, their products and their services do I admire and respect, because I just came from an environment and a career where it was all about belief and value and respect, right? So you're a beautiful candidate for creating a bucket list of employers. And then how do I put together my presentation around I'm a veteran, right? And I'm looking for my first post-military opportunity so that I can work. Again, you might end up at that company 20 years, but don't put the pressure on yourself that this job that you're going to take out of the military is the one you're going to be at for the next 5 or 10. Let's just go with 18 months. Let's just go with 2 years. And in that 18 months to 2 years, while you're there, you're going to learn a lot about the private sector. You're going to learn a lot about what you like to do, don't like to do, how to work with different people. And in that time, you can also do a lot more research and network and meet people in other industries and fields, so that that next move is a more calculated one. We call this the lily pad, right? You jump from lily pad to ultimately get where you want to go. That's what happens in the private sector. And it's just so good if you take the pressure off yourself and just say, look, I'm going out and looking for a 2-year assignment. 2-year assignment in the private sector. Check. Now I'll work through it and figure out what my next move is. Kendra says, if unemployed, should you keep the latest company listed on LinkedIn, or should you put down what you're currently working for? Oh, great question, Kendra. Okay, I get this a lot. First of all, wherever you worked last is the last thing on your resume, or and on your LinkedIn profile for that matter. And you put your end date, you put the month that you ended on LinkedIn. You do not put in a fake job. You don't put in what you're looking for. You don't put in self-employed, for 2 reasons. First of all, people have this mistaken assumption that if you don't have a current job, that you're somehow being penalized in the job search results. You're not. When you go into LinkedIn, it tells you all the time, hey, put in a current job, because it's an automated tool. It's a piece of technology and it wants you to fill in a current job. But they legally couldn't say, oh, Kendra doesn't have a job, so she ranks lower in the search results. That's not what they do. So you always want your last job there with an end date. You don't put in what you're looking for. That's not what your LinkedIn profile is for. Your LinkedIn profile is a digital resume. You just put in what you've accomplished, quantifiable accomplishments, and your transferable skills and what you need to know. The other thing I'm just going to tell you, and you didn't ask for this, but I need to tell you, please, folks, nobody put seeking new opportunities in your headline on LinkedIn. Do not do it. Do not put it in your about section. When you put it in your headline, you are getting immediately tossed from search results, because you're telling a recruiter, out of the 50 people listed there, you're unemployed. And like it or not, people who are between jobs are penalized. Companies are always told, hire somebody that's employed. There's just a perception. So you're literally pushing yourself out of search results when you do that. So please, no putting seeking new opportunities anywhere on your LinkedIn profile, anywhere on your resume. Just put the facts, right? Okay. What job markets are going to boom after this virus, or even in the upcoming years? I can't tell you that. I mean, there's just, like I said, we know that tech will, and every industry has tech in it. So I can tell you that every single industry will have some form of tech that will survive and boom out of this. What that looks like and who they are, I don't know. That's on you to figure out. I am just telling you it will boom. And if you pay attention in your industry, if you look at what the trends are, if you think about how this is affecting business models, you're going to start to see the people that are solving these problems and coming up with solutions, and you'll know where to go. But I will tell you, there will be opportunity, plenty of it. Nicole says, a company mentioned our department has low volume and they may reassign me to another department, not guaranteed. Should I be worried of being laid off? Should I be searching? Yes, you should absolutely be searching, Nicole. Yes, they're going to try to reassign you, which is great because they want to redeploy you. But if they can't redeploy you, then they would need to lay you off. So you should start looking right away. Get your resume, LinkedIn profile going. You need to jump in the game to cover your bases. You have nothing to lose. If they reassign you, great. But even then, if their business doesn't come back, they may have to let you go even later. So it's just a reality. But why would you wait? Just even a whisper, folks, if you're even hearing a whisper that your company is in trouble, you need to at least have your resume done, your LinkedIn profile done. You want to have, a cover letter design ready to go, and you want to start working on a bucket list of employers you're interested in. This isn't hours and hours of work. If you were this is why we call it Work It Daily, literally. If you were to spend 30 minutes a day in our platform, in a matter of days, you would start to have all of these things fixed. And that's not a lot of time. But for some reason, people push it off and they don't want to do it. And I know that's not you, Nicole, but we went in that direction, just so you know. I always tell people, use the Pomodoro technique when it comes to getting your job searching gear. You take your phone, you put a 5-minute timer on it. You say, for 5 minutes, I'm going to work on my resume. For 5 minutes, I'm going to work on my LinkedIn profile. And at the end of 5 minutes, if you don't want to do it anymore, fine. But what most people find is once they get started, they're willing to do a little bit more. And that's what you need to do. Get the discipline to get your head in the game. Stop avoiding it, folks. You have got to get these materials in good shape. All right. Wow. Some great questions today. Listen, I want to thank you for coming by. I hope I got you thinking creatively about the 4 options that you could be taking advantage of right now. Because again, where are the jobs? There are jobs out there. It's not very easy necessarily to see them, but there are opportunities. You need to be looking for them. And the harder you start looking and the more positive you are about that, the better results you're going to be. Plus, again, there's opportunities to see if you should be a freelancer, to get a gap job and learn something new, to build a skill set. It's endless. Just think about the opportunities, not about the negativities, okay? Excellent. Listen, and a final reminder, hey, if you haven't already, head over to our website, workitdaily.com/resources. If you are a layoff victim, we just did a new webinar. We had 1,000 people sign up within 24 hours. We had so much fun doing it in the sense of we really got to help a lot of people, right? And that's always feels good when you get to do that. So if you haven't checked that out, if you're laid off or you know somebody that's laid off, please send them over to workitdaily.com/resources so that they can get the new laid off and looking webinar. I promise you, they'll get a PDF. They'll get a whole lesson in strategy and tactics around job search that will help them feel empowered, help them feel like there's really something they can do, and it's totally free, okay? All right, everyone. Thank you again for stopping by. Remember, if you want to win, you've got to work it daily. And until next time, take care of yourself, stay healthy, and stay safe.